So today is the first webinar of our 2023 webinar series, and we're thrilled to have Jacki Gran be with us tonight. Um, Rather than giving a lengthy introduction, I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself and her work. So let's get started, Jacki.
Thanks. Yeah, hi, I'm Jacki. I'm really excited to be here and nervous because I've done one of these before, and I guess it was okay. So but anyway, thanks for inviting me. And I found it really exciting to put together this presentation because I've been doing girls as long as I've been mosaicing, and I do some other things as well, but girls are primarily what I do. And the way I got started doing that, I was looking for an art form that was meditative. And so I saw a video online of this artist in Tampa. And she did this, and she talked about the meditation of mosaics. And she did floors, big marble floors. And she would like chop up everything, lay out all the pieces, and then take a tweezers and dip it in glue and put it back in place, dip it in glue, put it back in place. Now, yes, that would be meditative, certainly not something I would ever do. But I thought, well, I'm going to try mosaic. So I signed up for a adult ed class at the high school. And I kind of thought I was going to be making like a trivet or something with a glue gun because my friend had taken a class that was like that. So that's kind of where I was starting from. And Antonionetta Di Pietro, who is an Italian mosaic artist, comes walking in. She's carrying her log with all her equipment on a little dolly. And she taught, so my very first class was reverse method in clay and using rabbit glue and the whole thing. It was, so the first 20 minutes I sat there going, this isn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a trivet. This is, and I quieted my head down enough to be able to sit still and listen and start. And it was the best thing I ever did in my life. I mean, I'm sure most of you understand that you know what next piece to pick. You know how it's going to fit. You just can feel, you can just feel the connection to the materials. I've always painted and drawn since I was a kid, but I don't have any formal training. I've taken some workshops or classes in painting and stuff, but I've never taken any, I didn't go to college for art, and I didn't, I didn't go to college for anything. And I didn't take any, so I don't have formal training, but from just my artisticness, I used to do a lot of fundraising things. I'd do, fundraising events, and I'd help on their decorations and stuff. And then I started a party planning company, and I made stage sets and props and did big parties. And so I found that to be work when I painted. It wasn't meditative and relaxing. So that was why I really wanted to engage in mosaics, and it was everything I wanted it to be. I started out working on a little card table in my bedroom. That was the only place I had room to do this. So my husband would be stepping on glass in the middle of the night. And, you think you have it all cleaned up, but it doesn't work that way. And so the very first piece I did was I flipped it and sunk it into some concrete at my front step. And it was a frog swimming in water. And it was really super cool. I have no pictures of it. And when they installed my hurricane shutters, they cut right through the middle of it and cut the poor little frog's head off. So that was my very first piece. So I I needed to buy materials from somewhere, and Gina Hubler had a Mosaic school in Miami. So I went to her place, and I started taking courses with her. And Gina, I don't know if any of you know Gina, remember Gina, she passed a couple of years ago, but she was a really amazing artist and classically trained in mosaics. And so I was working on something, and she says, I said, I don't know what to make in mosaics. She says, well, what do you draw? I said, well, I always draw girls. She says, well, then do that. So that was like the beginning of my mosaic girls. I've always been drawn to like Modigliani and Margaret Keane with big eyes and long necks. So that was always like, as a kid, that's what I drew. Those are the posters I had up. And so that's where my inspiration for my girls come from. I'm told that I'm drawing myself by those who look deeper into it. I think I'm just drawing things that I like, but maybe they are. I don't know. Sometimes they are. I mean, I know some things, I did a mosaic white light, which I didn't bring pictures of, but it was about feeling like what it would feel like to see God, just to have that spiritual connection. And I knocked that sucker out like in a week. It's the first time I've ever done anything that fast, or that, I just, it just happens. And that happens very rarely with pieces, because usually I have to sit and ponder and think about the andamento. I pull things out probably as much as I lay things down. And so it's a great process, and it's aggravating sometimes, it's frustrating sometimes, and it's just amazingly rewarding sometimes. So after Gina, she encouraged me to join SAMA, and I started getting involved with that. A lot of I was president, I've been on the board, I'm still on the board, trying to keep it alive. And every year that I would go, I would take 2 workshops, and then it gave you like a little taste of what these teachers were teaching you. And then a lot of times I would go and take regular, longer, week-long or 2-week-long courses with them. So I mostly work in Smalty. You'll see when I start putting up my pictures. I also I started off like, I thought Smalty was too hard, even though that my first pieces were in Smalty. I really liked working in stained glass. It was easier to buy nearby, and I liked the height differences between Smalty and stained glass, so I mixed them a lot. But now I just mostly work in Smalty. And I've also found that, like, online I get a lot of encouragement and a lot of advice, instruction, ideas. It started off with a Yahoo group, MAO, and then later it became, there's a million of them now. Mosaic Mentoring, you got CMA2. There's just so much information out there. Not all of it good. Some of it you have to, if you haven't studied or taken a lot of classes, you might not know it's not good, and you'll find out when you try to do something. And but I don't know any community in the art world that is as tight and as sharing of ideas as mosaic artists. It is simply a community that just, they love their materials, they love their art, and they're very open to sharing and teaching. And it's fantastic, and now with things going online because of the COVID and all that, there's so many more courses that you can take like at home. I don't really like doing that. My attention span can't sit there. I need to be with people, but it's pretty cool, So I wish we had a regional group like you do in Florida. We were about to start one before COVID. We had 75 people signed up just in South Florida. And the day we were supposed to meet in April. And so that didn't happen in 2020. So I don't know if that'll ever happen, but you guys have such a really tight group. It's really nice. You're really lucky to have it. And I'm jealous. So I've been doing this for about 20 years, 21 years. And I've been with SAMA for 19. So and now that I'm working on the conference in Buffalo that's coming up, and that's going to be with mosaics and with stained glass. So what is that? I'll find time to ask.
Oh, so this is we're starting to get a couple of questions in the chat.
Sure.
And I don't know if you want to take them or if you want to show us some of your images to speak with. Well, I can ask you both questions. But so one Andrea is saying that she hopes you can speak to the gradation process and a good way to create a smooth transition. And then someone else is asking how long it typically takes you to complete a piece and how large are they? So I feel like it would be really nice to see your images while we talk about them.
Okay, let me put up the pictures. And then I have to share screen. Where's that? Slideshow there. Okay, does that work?
Perfect, we can see it.
It's a miracle. So this is the very first girl I did. I have a painting, I have a painting from this artist, Botello, and I had his book and I used it as an inspiration to do this. His name is Angel Botello. And I didn't copy it, but it's inspired by his work. And my mother saw me making it and said, I'll take that. And it's at her house now. So she's good with that. So this is the African Queen. So this is the first time I worked with marble in the background, and Millefiore, I mixed materials. What's interesting about this is it didn't start out being a Black woman. It didn't start out to be an African queen. I just was trying to make a dark side and a light side. And I said, wow, she looks like an African queen. And that's how that became that. So a lot of times my materials change what I'm doing. And you can see there is no gradation here at all. So that was kind of something I was able to develop later. I was very into this whole half one color, the other half, and I used gold lips and gold eyebrows for a long time, different color nose and eye. I was just playing. And this is glass background, all triangles. So you can see this is early. This was, Gina told me, so I made this hat and I didn't outline it where it hits the hair. And she's like, you know, that should be outlined. And I said, oh no. And I was, I was explaining to her why it shouldn't be, she's Mosaic for like 30 years and I had like a year. And so I'm explaining to her why she's wrong. And then I went home and tore it out and redid it. So, but I had to rationalize. This is the girl behind the wall. I didn't name them yet. Girl with the bird. So you can see I'm like girl with a plant. And they're all different sizes. The girl with the bird is big. And this one's like a little, small one. This is the first one I named. This is Diva. girl behind a tree. Girl with green eyes. Yeah. This is Child Within. This is the first time I'm doing a little more with Andamento. The whole thing is smalty. Her face isn't, it's not, you know, gold lips and weird color here, but it is over here. So I'm kind of like trying to find a voice. This is Copperhead. This was like just for fun. I loved her. I don't know where she is. I guess somebody has her, but this is Lisa. This was an exchange piece with a group we have. This is Paloma. This I actually was one of the first ones, like early ones that I sold. I was trying to experiment with different colors for their face and stuff. You know, I often will paint them first when you're asking about gradation and coloring. I'll paint them, but I'm not like you know, there's some people like, if you know Shug Jones's work, or there's people who do they can paint like very, very real. And I mean, I can, but I don't. So, you know, I do this the way I feel it. And I like to play with different colors in their faces. This is Alice. Here I put a real necklace on her. But now I'm not doing the funny colored noses. I'm not doing gold, eyelids. It's changed. This is my girlfriend and I. That's Sue and that's me. Sisters of another mother. And that's Beth. Now I've started, you know, naming them. And I like using Mexican smalty because it gives me more gradation and more interest in the color. So at the beginning, I was using the Orsoni. And then I went to Perdomo. I took a course there, and I really like their materials better. And then sometimes I started using like concrete in the back instead of doing all mosaic.
So Jackie, can
Stop me whenever you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back to a couple of the questions. So you mentioned the size of two of them, but is there maybe how do you think about size, and how long does it usually take you to complete a piece?
Well, like my bigger pieces, like Fire Within, I worked on that for several years because I didn't have the skill to finish it. I got the eye done, and then I had to sit and just stare at it and work on other things for a while because I didn't know how to do the andamento on the face. So, which I'll go into, and I'm on it. But I mean, so I take my time if it's something that I feels like an important piece and I really like it. If it's like I make these little girls, this is like probably 12 by 8, 12 by 9, something like that. These are small. I make these for like exchange pieces, the Mosaic Art Salon, you know, so they're, you know, so those will take, I'll still take like a month to work on them because I take it out as much as I take it in, you know, so it's, I can't imagine most of you don't do that as well. So
yeah, it's true. So we have a question too about your process. So do you use thin set? Do you lay down a line or dip the pieces in and lay them down? Do you start with the eyes? And the person saying they've long loved your art and have studied the pieces and that they're wonderful.
Thank you. I always make the eyes first. That tells me who she's going to be and where I'm going to go with the rest of the color and everything else. I sometimes paint them. Sometimes I just do an outline of a face and make it. Sometimes I'll make 4 sets of eyes and then put them on and decide which ones I'm going to use. It's never the same. It's never the same. Right now I'm working on a little piece that I just ripped all up so it looks like heck. But she's about, maybe 18 inches. So I got the eyes done real quick, and then I'm going to make beetle wing hair. And, this is like a couple days worth of work. So
Nice to see the work in progress. Thanks for showing us.
yeah.
Um,
So
so you use thin set as your adhesive?
I don't. Well, I do sometimes, but usually I use Well Bond, and then I use thin set to grout it.
Mhm.
Now, that is not a, I don't know if anybody teaches that method and would approve of it. I don't know, but my pieces stay together and they work out really good. So I always, when I started out working with thin set, it seemed silly to have all this extra thin set. So I would like grout the part I did the day before and then finish, and then start working again so it just became a habit to use thin set only. So, and most people don't grout smalty, and I certainly set the pieces close enough. I don't have to, but I like to. So I think it
Looks
just
like
adds.
some of your early pieces looked like they weren't grouted at all. Is that right?
The very first one wasn't, the rest of them are.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Feel free to get back to what you were telling us, and I'll let you know if there are more questions that come in.
Yeah. That redhead was Annie. This is, she was in Doctors for Borders, when they had, that. This is Cassie. This is Imogene. But, I have like big, like containers full of mixes of these colors, because every time I work on something, I have leftover color and I'll just throw them in there. And then they might become a next color for the face. It changes every time, but so I save up all the scraps and little pieces and stuff. This is the dancer. Somebody stole this image and used it in Saudi Arabia as their avatar on their Facebook page. And then they had a tent and they had all their work copied, like at an art show of my work and this girl, Irie from Israel. And we had to call Facebook and shut it down. One of the girls online saw it and told us. I was flattered. I said, wow, great, she stole my work. And then I thought about it and went, well, wait a minute, she stole my work. This is Jessica. And this is Principessa. I did her in Italy at Orsoni. So it's all gold. Every bit of it is gold, which is amazing. And sadly, I sold her. But it was really fun. This is Abby. No, this is Laura. This is Tara. She was a painting first, and I have the painting separate. And then I did her in Mosaic afterwards. This is Esmeralda. There's things like I love the way her hair came out. I love the movement in the background and the white. I hate her neck. I wasn't happy with like this part. I see this transition, how it gets too skinny, and the andamento over here. We got to learn from it. And that was why when I was doing Fire Within, it took me so long to figure out how to lay the andamento on her body, because it's on her face, because it's really, it's tricky not to get caught in these little, like bottlenecks where you keep going narrower and narrower instead of using one bigger piece. And so I got caught in bottlenecks a couple times on her. This is Marisol. And this was where I got the inspiration to do Fire Within, because if you cut her in half, that's similar to Fire Within. And I had cropped it to do a business card. And so when I was trying to decide how to do Fire Within, this was a little piece from Sofa. These are really fast to do. This is Abby. This is Sophie. This is like more real than I usually work, but I thought I did it for Shug, so I thought I'd try it. This is Beth. Another Sofa piece. And this is a girl who I can't find her name, so she's a girl. And this is Carrie. This is beetle wings that I used, and all this is 24 karat gold.
Where did you get beetle wings?
I have a friend who's an artist who makes like these big, like we had bought a piece from him of a unicorn, all done in beetle wings, and he does like rhino heads and really big pieces of art like that, you'd see it like big art fairs and stuff. He's like up there. And so I was at his house and he said, yeah, why don't you try it, take some. So he gave me a bag of them. He gets them from Thailand. The beetles throw them off. They're actually not a wing, they're a shell, and they're hard. So you fill them with glue, and this I did in thin set, but the one I'm doing now, I'm using hot glue. He told me to use hot glue. I said, all right.
Wow.
Seemed wrong, but. And this is Fire Within. So you can see how, I've like avoided most of the bottlenecks in the Andamento, and her whole eye, all of this is 24 karat gold, white gold, red gold, gold. And I began this piece. I had a piece of fused glass that looked like a big red eye that I had bought at a vendor marketplace a couple of years ago. And I wanted to use that. And I had some pieces of metal. So I was going to do like a half of a metal face and a half of a real face. And then I started thinking, well, I have that red gold I've been hoarding for 20 years. Why don't I use it? Because they don't make it anymore. So I didn't want to use it on anything. Everything was not good enough for it. And so I took that stuff out and I did the eye. And once I did the eye, the metal went out. I put that away, and then I just kind of stared at it for a while. But this is big. This is 3 feet. So it's a big piece. And she lives at Joan Schwartz's house now.
And there's a question in the chat. Is that Smalty?
It's all Mexican and Italian Smalty. Yeah. It's hard to see.
It's gorgeous, and that all of them are.
Thank you. And this piece is Alyssa, which was made for the Tree of Life. She asked me to make a girl who's talking, and it's the first time I've made teeth. So that was very exciting. This is Jadis, the White Witch of Narnia. There was a storybook show in Lexington, Kentucky that Terry Pulley curated. And so I made this for her.
So Andrea's asking what's the difference between Mexican and Italian Smalty?
A lot. The Mexican Smalty has lots of color. It has at least, I mean, both sides of it are multicolored. So it's almost like the crust. In Italian Smalty, that's called the crust, and that's not the part you use. But, well, you can, but it's usually not. It's not the pure color. And it's also flatter and smoother, because and it doesn't have the little bubbles and holes. I mean, some of them do. It depends on the color because of the pigment, but most of it doesn't. So you can grout it and not spend, 2 years cleaning it and picking out every hole. I have done that too. So yeah, so I like it better. It cuts easier for me. It's easier for me to shape. And I just like the mixes of colors.
Thanks. And Cheryl's saying that it seems like you use mostly black or gray thin set for the grout.
Yeah, mostly black, but if it's a piece like this, it'd be dark gray. But yeah, I think it just pops the color out better. I mean, whenever people, you'll see it online, they're going, what color grout should I use on this? And, because to me, it's always black, but occasionally that isn't correct and it'll kill the piece. So you have to, it depends on your colors, and it also depends on how you've laid your materials. Because if you're going to end up with big black, like grout rivers all over it, I mean, if you got to be aware of what the grout's going to show. Like outlining her hair, that's grout. That's not smalty. Outlining their faces, that's her nose is smalty, but her face is grout. So I use it for separation as well. I do that a lot.
Yeah. Thanks.
This is did I name her? Yeah, she's Eleanor. I just finished her for an exchange piece. And this is Blue. She was a commission for my girlfriend. My girlfriend hasn't seen it yet. I just finished it last week, and this is going, she hasn't seen it at all. And she's having a party, and she's gonna have it hung and it's like so embarrassing. So yeah. And I think that's it. So that's all I got for you.
Wow, well, those are fantastic. So to all of you, I think it would be nice if we can stop the screen share and then just have a bit of a conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe you could go back to a certain image if people want to see it again. I am perfectly happy to have you all unmute if you want to say something, or you can type in the chat if you want me to say it for you.
I see there's a question about cutting the smalty. I have a Hammer and Hardy, and I have wheeled nippers. I use both. And in fact, I'm taking a course this summer with Dino Maccini, and that's all Hammer and Hardy. So I got to start using my Hammer and Hardy.
Nice. Comments, reactions, questions?
How do you get your cuts so smooth? I know I use a lot of Mexican and Italian Smalty, and I can't seem to get my cuts, and I use a diamond grinder just if it's too pointy or trying to get rid of a shelf or whatever you want to call it. How do you get it so smooth? I've studied your pieces, and they're really so nicely done.
Thank you. It's torture. I nibble, and then I have another, I have a second, I have my regular nippers with me, and then I'll have another one that opens really wide that I can see the sides. But I try to it's hard.
Do
It's
you end
hard
up,
to get 'em.
do you end up trashing a lot of the glass? Because some of that glass just crumbles. It's
Yeah,
just, okay. I thought
everyone
maybe
does.
it was just
When,
me.
when you buy it, they tell you, you figure at least 20 to 30% is waste.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they know you're going to be doing that. But I use such small pieces, it makes it easier. I mean, I use the pieces are really small, so it makes it easier to, trim them because they're small. If you're using bigger pieces, it makes it harder.
Okay.
Your work is getting a lot of love in the chat.
Oh,
And then there's a question from Carol. What is your backer board?
it's either weedy or it's half inch, like good quality wood. I don't use plywood or anything. It's got to be finished wood.
And Linda's wondering, are your girls inspired by actual women, and do you give them a personality?
The personalities for sure, but it's probably the mood I'm in when I'm doing them and drawing them. I have a case of drawings. I have a million girls waiting to be born. I really do. I couldn't believe I already did 37. I mean, that's 37 that I have pictures of. I know there was a few more. So that's a lot. I mean, because I have done other things too. So it's like, that's a lot, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't get sick of doing them. So
I'm curious, is Mosaic is it your only work right now, or are you doing it on the side?
no, I spend a lot of time in the studio. I have a show in Dallas with Shug Jones, Julie Dilling, and Jenny Perry. We're doing a group show there, and so I'm trying to get work ready for that. So I'm home like every day trying to make stuff, and plus I have like already some other obligations of things to make. So yeah, no, and I mean I wouldn't be able to feed a family doing this. Don't get me wrong. It's a luxury that I can do this, but
I'd love to go back to that very first question that was raised about the gradation. The question there, if I remember correctly, was really about how to begin that process. Can you talk us through what you do when you're thinking about creating a gradation? You said you have a whole collection of pieces of different colors, but what do you do?
Well, Gina had taught me, she said to take 4 colors of different levels of different tones of the same color, and use and chop those up and mix them. Or Shug tells you she'll do them in lines and then remove pieces and move the other colors into them to bring them together. So I think everyone has their own way to do it. When I paint them or draw them on, so I know where I'm going to change the color, I don't know. I think I just do it by instinct, and because mine don't look totally real. So you know what I mean? So it gives me a little more wiggle room to be, they don't have to be right, because I'm not starting off with a point of light coming from somewhere or whatever. That isn't that, except for like that one girl, Sophie, she's the only one that actually was like legit, like color wise and lighting wise. So that gives me more room to do it where I want it and where I feel like it needs it. I mean, that your eyes have like bags under them. So you want to, that, where your cheeks come in and you want them to sink in. So I'll draw them to do it. And then like I did this girl, I just ripped it all out last night because, I'm like, it's not blending. It's just like, it's lines. So I take it out and then I redo it. There wasn't enough mix of color there. I thought there was when I was laying them, but then I looked at them, and our phones are like the best tool in the studio. Every time I work for like an hour or two, I take a picture. And then I go and I walk around for a minute. I come back, I look at the picture and go, oh no, you gotta go. And pull it out while I still can, instead of having to get my husband to come out with the drill, and which I've done, and Dremel them out or whatever. So so I'm constantly checking, but I think you got to feel it. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, if you're looking at our pictures right now, this is dark, this is, I mean, so you can see where the shadows would go. And then you have to like mark them on the thing, and then kind of.
You set your lighting up as a good example. None of the rest of us look that way. It's just you.
Yeah, right.
Beautiful division.
Because there's a light over here, like going like this, and this one needs to be replaced. So
No, it works well. So what other questions or comments do you all have after seeing all those girls?
And no, they're not inspired by other women. Yeah, but they're my personality, probably.
All of them?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. You're being so quiet.
So when
Sophia.
I have a question. So when you grout them, you don't wait to grout the entire piece. You do maybe a couple lines, and then you like it, and then you grout
No, I'll grout the whole piece
after you're done. Okay.
when it's a really huge piece. I might grout as I go, because like when I did a big piece behind and it's all smalty for my kitchen, of big flowers. So as I would finish like one portion for the day, then the next morning I'd come in, I'd grout it, and then I'd use the rest of the thin set to set the next flower. So I mean, it just depends. I do it different every.
Okay. I've never grouted smalty before. So when you grout it, are you using just your hands with, to get everything in and then you just wipe it off with a cloth?
I trowel it on. I
Okay.
rub it in because there's deep crevices.
Right.
And especially if I add, like I just finished a piece that has like big quartz crystals in it, that was like nightmare. And so, you're you
Feeling
got to
around.
rub it. So you rub it all in really good, and it doesn't bubble like grout. So you can really get like a nice hard surface. But, and then I'll take paper towel first and wipe off some of the excess.
Okay.
And then I'll let it sit until it gets white. Then I'll take a very barely damp sponge, and I'll start to sponge it off. And then I sit and let it dry, and then I rub it down, and then I sit and pick every single piece.
Okay. And when you're doing the concrete background, it looked like the concrete background was a little bit lower elevation wise than your smalties.
Yeah.
Okay.
On purpose. I like
Yeah.
it like that. But I just got my friend just went to Italy and took a course in Ravenna, and she brought back with her the techniques for the self-leveling thin set.
Oh,
And wait, I'll show you. I got everything here.
well, I'm going to Ravenna in June.
Okay.
So do you know where she got it, or what the
She brought it here, but she took
Oh,
the
okay.
class. Can
Oh,
you
wow.
see that?
Wow.
So I poured the white and I poured the gold thin set around the rose just to play with it, to try it. And I love it. It came out great.
Wow. It's so smooth.
It's so smooth and hard like a rock.
Wow.
So yeah.
Self-leveling. Okay.
Self-leveling. I can probably if you put in the chat or text me, hit me up on Facebook.
Okay.
And I'll get the name of it. She's going to be here tomorrow, so I'll tell
Okay.
you exactly what the name of it is.
Where did she take her course,
Yes, I do.
I'm going to Cocoa Mosaics, but
That's
I,
where she was.
is that,
Thank you.
okay.
Yes.
So away from the technical for a minute, Nancy's wondering, what are your two favorite girls and why?
Well, Fire Within was definitely my favorite of all of them. And I would say the girl with the beetle wings. I love her.
What do you like about her?
She just speaks to me, you know. I mean, I liked how the hair came out. I liked the little bits of gold through it and the flowers. I don't know. I'd like to be her. She just, she looked like she has fun.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah.
So we have about 10 more minutes if we'd like to use it. But if you're all out of questions and
I have
comments,
a question.
When is your thing in Dallas? Oh, sorry.
okay, let's start with Amy and then we'll go back up.
May 20th, I think. No, I'm going on the 20th. It's that Tuesday. Wait, I'll tell you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to butt in.
No, that's
Oh.
fine. Not at the same time. But
May
now it's
23rd is the opening. It's there all month, but it's in the Garland Art Center or something like that. They did a call for artists and it was like 2 years ago, like for exhibitions and things. And Shug calls us and goes, we should do this, since like Sama was like looking like it was going to be hitting the bricks, and you know, we need a place to show our work. But I believe there's going to be an MAI this year, and at the conference, I think they're going to be doing it again. So
okay, so what was the question that was started but stopped?
I was just asking where you can get the self-leveling thin set.
Oh,
I think she gets it at Home Depot.
Oh, okay.
But I'll get the name of it
mhm.
and find out for you guys.
Why don't you send it to me, Jackie? Because what I'll do is
Disperse
add
it.
an email to everybody
Okay.
with that. Okay.
Yeah. And you
Um,
need the coloring to mix in. We used the powder that we got from Sherry Werner Hunter,
Mhm.
and that worked really good. But I think the liquid would be even better. So I just ordered the liquid. I haven't tried it yet from Tammy McCullough.
And so Jackie, Linda's saying she's a little confused by using thin set as grout because it seems like the thin set would be impossible to get off once it partly dried. Do you
Yeah.
speak to that?
It has polymer in it, the thin set. It's I think what I'm using right now is Mapei. But it has the polymer in it, and that's why I get most of it off at the beginning. And if I wet it, I mean, you know, Smalty is really shiny. It doesn't really stick to it. So it seems, I mean, you can't leave it like covered, but if you get most of it off, going back and getting the corners, you could be doing that a couple days and it's no big deal. It doesn't dry. I mean, it dries, but it comes off. I just use a little water,
Thanks.
maybe vinegar, depending, a toothbrush,
Yeah.
Dental Explorer. Yeah, it's where that's where the meditation comes in. You know, when I said I wanted to do this because it's meditative, the first time I made a mosaic, it was a little like box I got at Michael's, and I mosaiced it, and it said let it set for 24 hours before you grout, and I thought it felt pretty firm, so I grouted it then, and it fell apart. And then I made another piece, and I was going to, this time I'm following the instructions. I'm waiting the allotted time. So science does exist in my house. But so I take a vacuum cleaner and a wire brush to clean it because I'm like, the meditation part is like, this is taking too long. So it took a long time to slow down and do things right and get that meditative part.
Mhm.
Oh, see, so Candace uses it too.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, Julie Dilling, she'll take her workout on, she makes like really beautiful, like hanging, like blanket type things and stuff and, fabric looking. And she'll take them out on her back porch with a pressure cleaner and pressure clean it after she grouts it with thinset and sets it in thinset. And if it stays together, then it's good to go. Good to go to the show.
That's a good test.
I'm not that brave.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I wanted to tell everybody about the next webinar in our series. It's called Piecing Us Together, Connecting Through Art in a Time of Need. And it is scheduled for March 28th, 7 to 8 p.m. So hopefully everyone will join us for that. Any last words, Emily?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you also, Jackie. This was great. And thanks to all of you for joining. And I keep your ears open for some community projects that are going to be starting up soon. So I hope you'll all get engaged lots of ways in NEMS. Have a great evening.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks, everyone. It was really fun.
Welcome.